Imagine being trapped in a supermarket when a swirling blue portal tears open reality. Bloodthirsty goblins flood the aisles, and the shoppers huddle together in pure terror. A green monster lunges from the shelves, chasing down a helpless man and brutally tackling him to the floor. The protagonist breathes heavily, gripping a blood-soaked machete. He watches a terrified man in glasses cower in the corner. The man is completely paralyzed by fear, so the protagonist grabs a chainsaw, ready to fight alone. But suddenly, he stares at a floating window that reads, "Game restarting," holding his head as the world seems to glitch. A massive boss-level orc drops into the room with a deafening roar. It stomps the ground, ready to crush them into paste. But the cowering man in glasses effortlessly slips the attack and casually severs the beast's Achilles tendon with an axe. A little kid leaps into the air. The polite cashier swings heavy iron chains and instantly crushes a monster's skull. The kid stands confidently with a monkey wrench. In the blink of an eye, the survivors stand victorious. The protagonist stares at them over the barrel of his rifle. Why are these everyday civilians suddenly fighting like elite combat veterans? Because they aren't civilians anymore. They are seasoned players who just survived 10 years of a global apocalypse. The entire world went back in time, but the protagonist's status window shows his stats are absolute garbage. He sighs, realizing the massive disadvantage he's at, until he stares at a terrifying red error message. He is the only human being alive who didn't regress. What these arrogant time travelers don't realize is that long before this game started, he was the most ruthless mercenary in Force 1. He falls back from a leaping goblin and cleaves the beast in half on pure instinct. He doesn't need future knowledge to know exactly how to butcher a target. When an armored SWAT soldier tries to disarm him, he snatches the assault rifle right out of his hands. He unleashes a blinding barrage of lead into the horde, firing at point-blank range with dead-eyed precision. The system recognizes his anomaly. While the regressors fight with their outdated strategies, he rushes forward and decides to rewrite their history. An orc roars in his face. The cashier targets its knee, and the glasses guy slices its leg exactly like they memorized from the future. But the protagonist stares at a fire axe on the ground. Gripping the handle tight, he pours highly flammable paint thinner over the blade. The axe ignites into a roaring trail of fire. He crashes down on the massive orc, completely butchering it and embedding the flaming steel straight through its skull. A wicked smile crosses his face. This game just got interesting. Every single time he does something different from his past life, his body erupts in a blazing aura. The system floods him with massive bonus stat points. He stares at his newly acquired armor skill. A surging blue energy surrounds him, hardening his skin like black iron. The so-called veterans watch in absolute horror. He turns his attention to the dimensional rift, the blue portal that spawned the apocalypse. He isn't scared of the monsters inside. He is going to exploit this system glitch for everything it's worth. He dumps all his new points into pure strength and marches straight toward the gate. The regressors follow close behind, thinking they still have the upper hand. A goblin lunges at him through the air. He brutally punches it across the face, casually lifting the monster by its throat. He reaches out his hand, grips the creature's head, and crushes its skull into green paste. The cashier stares at him, completely paralyzed. They suddenly realize they are standing next to a monster. The timeline just fractured. Everyone regressed except him, and that was their biggest mistake. The guy with the glasses loses his mind. He swings the revving chainsaw straight for Hua-Yun's neck, expecting a bloodbath. Hua-Yun doesn't flinch. He grabs the tearing blade with his bare hand. Sparks fly in all directions. The new armor skill hardens his skin into black iron, rendering the weapon useless. Not a single scratch on his palm. Hua-Yun lifts the wannabe murderer by the throat. The man dangles in the air, gasping for breath. Hua-Yun realizes these 10-year veterans are a complete joke. They act tough because they know the script. But the second the timeline changes and things go off book, they revert to panicking amateurs. They have the memories of veterans, but the fragile mental state of rookies. He drops the coughing coward back to the concrete. On the battlefield, killing an enemy meant taking their gear. That was the rule of survival. This magical system is different. It drops loot for anyone standing nearby. Hua-Yun refuses to do the dirty work to enrich a bunch of scavengers. He spares the guy to keep the loot pool empty. A dead goblin champion glows on the floor. It leaves behind a blue holographic inventory screen. Hua-Yun searches the corpse and retrieves a crystal necklace. It grants a massive boost to raw strength and agility points. He tests his new stats by swinging the chainsaw at another monster. The system chimes, announcing the dungeon is cleared. A 3-minute escape timer flashes above their heads. The regressors panic. In their past lives, the military locked down these gates for hours. None of them ever saw a gate close this fast. Their future knowledge is failing them, and the timer is ticking down. They rush toward the exit. Again, the crying kid grabs Hua-Yun's sleeve. He refuses to let go. His name is Kim Min-soo. The kid is smart enough to realize the timeline is broken beyond repair. He understands that his 10-year memories are now worthless. Min-soo admits he has zero desire to be the main character of this new world. He lived 10 years of pure hell in his past life. He just wants to be a loyal sidekick to someone strong enough to keep him breathing. It is a cowardly request, but a highly logical one. Hua-Yun respects the raw honesty. Sticking with the guy who just caught a chainsaw with his bare hands is a smart survival strategy. 3 days pass. The real world descends into pure chaos. The government deploys riot police, but they are powerless against magic. Financial markets crash. Sports betting companies go bankrupt overnight. And politicians get exposed by people who remember remember the next decade of history. The globe is swarming with regressors trying to exploit their future memories for quick cash. Hwa-yoon watches the news from the comfort of his apartment. The broadcast features a high-ranking official. The director of the World Player Association announces a blanket pardon for all crimes committed by the heroes, specifically the heroes who entered the final dungeon in the previous timeline. The government is desperate to appease the strongest people on Earth. Meanwhile, Hwa-yoon sits on his couch. He is racking up butterfly effect bonus points for doing mundane tasks. Drinking a glass of water grants a point. Taping his windows grants a point. Every tiny deviation from his past life is rewarded. His stats skyrocket without him even swinging a weapon. He tunes back into the television broadcast. Massive statues have been erected in Gwanghwamun Square. They honor the 3 Korean representatives who entered the final dungeon: the Poison King, the Sword Emperor, and the Shadow of Death. Hwa-yoon stares at the screen. The third statue is a perfect replica of him. He was the strongest player in the entire country. The puzzle pieces finally click together. All these low-level regressors are hunting for the legendary items and skills Hwa-yoon possessed in his past life. They want to steal his endgame build before he can acquire it. Hwa-yoon dumps his massive stockpile of bonus points into agility. He pushes the stat well over 50. He grabs his jacket and heads out. If the entire country is gunning for the Shadow of Death, now he needs to hit the streets. He needs to find out what they plan to steal from him. He tests his new speed on the rooftops. His body moves like a phantom. He clears massive gaps between buildings without breaking a sweat. He feels the terrifying power of an endgame build on day 3 of the apocalypse. He arrives at Gwanghwamun Square and blends into the massive crowd. People are on their knees worshipping his stone monument. It is a bizarre, cult-like obsession. This devotion is driven by pure greed masquerading as reverence. Someone spots him in the crowd. A player from the General Guild swings a spiked mace straight for his head. Hwa-yoon sidesteps the ambush. He remains unimpressed by the clumsy telegraph strike of a supposed veteran. He grabs the attacker by the throat and lifts him off the ground. He demands answers. It's squeezing the man's windpipe. The guild rat spills his guts under pressure. His guild has 100 players staking out the Lykan dungeon. They plan to monopolize the rare stealth skill Hwa-yoon acquired there in his past life. They think they can rewrite his history. Min-soo arrives just in time to catch a massive lie. The kid steps out of the alleyway, shaking his head. He pulls up a regressor forum on his phone. He proves the Lykan dungeon does not open in 3 days. It opens tomorrow. The guild rat tried to throw Hwa-yoon off the scent to protect the ambush. The liar panics and tries to launch a desperate counterattack. Hwa-yoon has zero tolerance for deception. He snaps the guy's neck with a flick of his wrist. He drops the lifeless corpse onto the pavement. Min-soo brings up a critical problem. The Lykan dungeon has a strict entry requirement. You must be level 5 to enter. Hwa-yoon is a mere level 2. His stats might rival a god, but the system gate will still lock him out. Hwa-yoon tells the kid to point him toward the nearest active monster gate. If the system demands level 5, he plans to grind the remaining levels right now. Nothing is keeping him out of that dungeon. They track down a low-level goblin gate. Hwa-yoon doesn't bother drawing a weapon. He wades into the horde, crushing skulls and shattering spines with his bare fists. He farms experience points at an absurd rate. While he massacres the horde, Min-soo breaks down the mechanics of skill stones. From common drops to legendary artifacts, the stones grant immense power. The world is about to become a desperate scramble for total monopoly over these skills. Hwa-yoon listens, processing the new rules of this broken world. The next day arrives. The General Guild assembles a massive army in front of the Lykan dungeon spawn point. 100 armed players buzz with excitement. They are ready to claim the Shadow of Death's legendary legacy. The portal tears open in a burst of fiery energy. The guild leader screams for his troops to charge in. He wants to secure the zone before anyone else can interfere with their grand master plan. The entire vanguard slams into an invisible red barrier. The system flashes a giant rejection warning. The player limit is capped. Entry denied. The guild leader stands frozen in pure confusion. Nobody went past their blockade. Nobody broke their defensive line. The math makes zero sense. Unless someone was moving so fast the human eye couldn't track them. He cut to the inside of the dungeon. Hwa-yoon and Min-soo stand inside, surrounded by 3 tied-up hostages they brought along to fill the party quota. With superhuman agility, Hwa-yoon bypassed the entire guild army before they took a single step. The hunt begins right now. The Lykan pack stalks forward under the pale moonlight. Glowing red eyes pierce the tree line, locking onto the scent of fresh blood. The massive alpha beast bares its fangs. The tied-up guild members realize they are nothing but bait for a slaughter. Hwa-yoon does not run. He turns his attention to the encroaching horde. The wolves surround him in a tight, inescapable circle. The hostages pray for a miracle, or at least a quick death. Hwa-yoon meets the vanguard's charge with a crushing backhand. He checks his system window, noting the butterfly effect points rolling in. The alpha lunges to avenge its fallen packmate. Hwa-yoon understands exactly how canine dominance works. Back in his mercenary days, he learned the hard way while tracking pirates. Grabbing a snarling detection dog straight by the snout establishes absolute authority. He spared that dog, but he has zero intention of sparing these monsters. The alpha opens its jaws for a lethal bite. Hwa-yoon snatches its upper and lower jaw mid-air. A sickening crunch echoes across the clearing as bones shatter. The hostages stare in absolute disbelief at his raw physical strength. He pivots and buries his fist into the ribs of another wolf. A hostage screams, begging to know why he isn't finishing them all off. He explains the basic mechanics. If all the monsters die, the gate disappears. The general guild leader orchestrated this trap to steal a specific skill. Hwa-Yoon refuses to hand over a single drop of loot to the scavengers waiting outside. Two more wolves attempt a desperate flank attack. His expression shifts to pure annoyance. He blurs across the grass faster than the human eye can track. Though he snaps their necks in a synchronized strike, the immediate threat neutralized. He turns his attention back to the human garbage on the floor. He demands a name from the cowering cultists. The major guilds manipulate the public, turning dungeon raids into a lucrative religion. The rat on the ground caves instantly under pressure, naming Choi Chul-sung. Hwa-Yoon recognizes the title. The hostages confess they followed strict orders to secure the stealth skill. He snatches the liar by his collar. He wants them to understand the exact position they are in. The Poison King himself, the guild master of the General Guild, a former comrade trying to steal his endgame build before he can equip it. The media adores the man, treating him like a savior. Hwa-Yoon respects the raw ambition behind the betrayal. The dungeon resets, spawning fresh prey from the shadows to replace the dead. Hwa-Yoon smiles. The system is feeding him experience points on a silver platter. He wades back into the pack, painting the forest floor red. A blinding burst of fiery energy signals another kill. The hostages realize they are tied up next to an apex predator. He checks his stash. The bonus points sit at 93. Dozens of crushed Lykans litter the dirt. The terrified kid points out the specific anomaly among the corpses. Hwa-Yoon walks over to claim his prize. He spots the white-browed beast bleeding out near a rock. A swift strike pierces its thick hide. He plunges his hand deep into the creature's chest cavity. He rips through muscle and sinew. His fingers retrieve a cold, glowing crystal, the stealth skill stone, the exact item the General Guild wanted. Minsu stares at the gem. In the outside world, that rock buys a skyscraper, but raw power always eclipses cash when society collapses. Hwa-Yoon survived the battlefields by relying on his own two hands. He swallows the crystal whole. The system flashes a glaring red error message. The skill requires level 10. He is currently level 6. The hostages sense his rising frustration. He decides to dump his massive stockpile of bonus points into pure strength. His numbers skyrocket into the high 200s. 100 armed guild members wait just beyond the gate perimeter. He needs the stealth skill right now if he wants to avoid a pointless war. He commits to farming the respawning Lykans until he hits the requirement. The magic number finally hits. Level 10 achieved, stealth unlocked. He stares at his blood-soaked hands. Minsu explains the mechanics. Level 1 only cloaks the physical body. His clothes will float like a ghost until the skill evolves. He pulls off his shirt to compensate for the system limitation. The terrified hostages beg for mercy, promising to keep his secret. He tells them to shut up. A blazing portal tears open. The dungeon is cleared. Bare feet step onto the paved street outside. Invisible and unimpeded, Hwa-Yoon walks straight past the waiting army. The guild vanguard stares at the empty portal, confused. Minsu panics, realizing they are back in the real world. Hwa-Yoon shushes the kid before he blows their cover. He points toward a waiting taxi across the intersection. News stations broadcast the dungeon clear across the globe. Images of dead guild members dominate the morning feeds. The crushed Lykan skulls puzzle the forensic teams. Hwa-Yoon watches the chaos unfold from the comfort of his apartment. Minsu shoves a smartphone into his face. The media treats the unknown player like a messiah. Pundits analyze a clip from the previous timeline. The Player Skills Association convenes an emergency press conference. Chairman Park Jong-sik declares that the game rules have already changed. The other panelists mock his grim assessment. Park presents the forensic analysis of the monster corpses. A level 40 player might break these dense bones with a high-tier heavy weapon. He drops a massive wolf head onto the desk. He points to a small circular crater right between the eyes. The revelation hits the room. The beast was killed by a finger flick. Hwa-Yoon understands the panic. These elites have vested interests in the old power scaling. If a god-tier player exists, their hoarded wealth and future knowledge become worthless. Park urges the public to stay calm, masking his own terror. Hwa-Yoon notes the massive butterfly effect, points he gains by breaking their reality. His stats rival gods, but his system level remains painfully low. He needs to resume the grind immediately. The system lockouts prevent him from entering high-tier dungeons. He decides to take the hunt to the streets. He tracks down a blue monkey spawn point in a local park. He tells Minsu he can harvest them without stepping foot inside the gate. The kid looks confused by the strategy. Hwa-Yoon explains that unentered dungeons eventually leak monsters into the world. Minsu warns him about the blue monkeys. Yes, they are intelligent and adapt to combat. Hwa-Yoon checks his bank of unspent points. A massive rift tears through the sky above the trees. The monkeys are notorious for utilizing ranged attacks. Car alarms blare in the distance. The swarm is already loose. Their speed makes them a nightmare for low-level regressors. Hwa-Yoon dumps his fresh points straight into agility, hitting 578. Minsu recoils from the sudden shockwave of displaced air. The kid spots the blue beasts tearing up the parking garage. Hwa-Yoon crashes into the concrete, sending the apes flying. He snatches two stragglers by the neck mid-air. He throws them into the pavement with bone-breaking force. A brutal sweeping kick breaks their formation. realization. The intelligent beasts realize they are outmatched and experience genuine terror. He checks his status window, level 17. Minsu stares in shock. Hitting that level in 6 days breaks every known record. The exertion leaves Hua-Yun gasping for air. His stamina cannot keep up with his raw speed. He pours the next batch of points directly into his endurance stat. He grabs an iron wrench and goes to work on the remaining pack. The monkeys cower under the relentless bludgeoning. A final swing clears the area of immediate threats. Minsu points to the ceiling. The parking lot is rigged with security cameras. The massive fire portal still crackles in the background. Farming level 14 monsters yields diminishing returns. Minsu notes that humanity won't destroy these gates anytime soon. In the previous timeline, it took 29 days for players to breach a level 15 gate. Minsu pulls up a secret regressor forum called The Games. Players upload their clear times to assert dominance over the shifting rankings. Clearing the level 14 threshold forces the system to spawn level 15 gates. Hua-Yun decides to play their game and make a public statement. He registers a new account under the handle Fearless. He claims the world-first record for the Blue Monkey Gate. Minsu panics, realizing this triggers harder monsters to spawn worldwide. Outside the perimeter, massive dome shelters house the terrified civilians. A mother comforts her child, waiting for the military to secure the zone. A shout rings out. The Blue Monkey Gate just vanished. People stare in disbelief. It took weeks to clear this threat in the previous life. The crowd erupts into cheers. The news spreads like wildfire through the shelter. On the forum, the handle Fearless trends instantly. The digital masses crown him their new hero. Hua-Yun ignores the worship and walks toward his next target. Every step he takes reshapes the timeline, yielding more points. Minsu tries to process the sheer scale of the butterfly effect. Hua-Yun tests his new agility by sprinting onto the open highway. He runs alongside an 18-wheeler, matching its speed. The truck driver yells out the window, assuming he's a reckless kid. Hua-Yun vanishes into a blur of motion. The driver stares at the empty road, questioning his own sanity. The gap between him and the rest of the world is widening by the second. He locks his sights on a level 20 gate. The loot there is mandatory. A massive golden bear steps out of the tree line. Hua-Yun meets the beast's charge with a dead center strike. The bear swipes with claws the size of broadswords. He ducks under the arc. He wrestles the giant monster by the throat. The bear hits the ground hard, kicking up a cloud of debris. Minsu reads out the glowing praises for Fearless on the forum. The kid spots a new notification. Someone just cleared a level 16 gate. Poison Choi. The guildmaster is moving fast. Hua-Yun smiles. A decent rival makes the game interesting. They discuss the target loot, a black dagger from the Golden Leopard dungeon. A sudden splash of monster blood covers Minsu's shirt. They prepare to head to the level 20 gate. Hua-Yun pushes his raw strength past the 1000 mark. He cracks his knuckles, feeling the impossible density of his muscles. The system acknowledges the milestone. A new active skill drops into his inventory, Petrify. He squints at the prompt, recognizing the name. He turns to his sidekick to test the new power. A surge of energy locks the kid in place. 3 seconds of absolute paralysis. A lethal advantage in any duel. Minsu stammers, naming the original owner of that skill. It belonged to young Xiong Wei, the Chinese emperor, the legendary player who unified all guilds in China. He ranked number 1 in the previous timeline. Hua-Yun realizes he must have stolen the skill from a dungeon drop. He decides to clear a level 19 gate in Gangnam first to force the spawn. He tells Minsu to keep watch and report any anomalies. The target is a crimson-eyed mole dungeon. A giant subterranean eye glares from the deep darkness. A mole bursts through the asphalt, tearing up the street. Armed police lock down the perimeter, firing useless lead into its hide. Hua-Yun steps calmly through the barricade. He activates his new Petrify skill. The massive mole freezes solid mid-strike. He slaps it down to the pavement like a nuisance. A swift blow shatters its spine. The bonus points register. The execution was flawless. 14 more moles hide in the deep twisting tunnels. Digging them out would waste hours he doesn't have. He pulls the toxic blue monkey fur from his inventory. Time for some aggressive pest control. A spark ignites the makeshift fumigator. Noxious smoke floods the underground network. The moles scramble to the surface. He butchers them as they emerge coughing. He counts the kills. 15 down. The system announces his victory right on schedule. Minsu calls him in a panic. The press has tracked their location. A horde of reporters swarms the police line, hungry for a quote. Hua-Yun scans the crowd. Not a single General Guild player is present. The military guards whisper about his 30-minute clear time. He tells Minsu he is tired of running from cameras. He walks straight toward the mob. Microphones are shoved into his face from every direction. In his past life, the chaos of battlefields gave him a deep appreciation for silence. This media circus is just an annoyance he intends to fix. The reporters shrink back under his intense glare. He tells them that blaming others for their weakness can go straight to hell. A Canadian representative named Boward recently insulted him on national television. The cameras go wild, anticipating his response. Hua-Yun raises his middle finger straight at the lens. He leaves them behind and approaches the Golden Leopard Gate, a B-rank threat. The monsters here drop top-tier rare loot. He cleaves through the first leaping beast with pure force. A vicious roar shakes the surrounding trees. The system locks out his active skills under the beast's suppressing roar. The ground shatters as the alpha charges. He meets the swipe with his bare forearm, testing his durability. The pack surrounds him, drooling for a coordinated kill. He rushes the alpha head-on, opting for raw grappling. He drives the creature into the soil, crushing its windpipe. He declares the hunt over. The final leopard falls. He drags its carcass across the clearing. The notification chimes. The dungeon is cleared. A holographic chest materializes in the air, the dagger of destruction. It carries 0 base stats, relying entirely on the wielder's power. He grabs the hilt, feeling the dark energy sync with his system. When he channels a skill, the blade absorbs the effect. He coats the weapon in his stealth ability, turning the steel completely invisible. He smiles. It is an assassin's perfect tool. He steps back out of the fiery rift. The press mob is still waiting for him at the perimeter. A reporter shouts a question about the legendary weapon he carried in his past life. Hwa-Yoon scans the crowd again. Still no elite players in sight. Someone asks about the Eye of God. The name triggers a sharp memory of absolute battlefield supremacy. He turns to Min-Soo. The kid looks terrified of the implications. The reporters demand to know his current system level. He drops the bomb. Level 24. Over 1,000 strength. The entire crowd goes dead silent. He warns them to back off and never approach him again. The next morning, the news anchors lose their minds over his middle finger. Foreign ministers demand international intervention to curb his power. Min-Soo pulls up an article discussing the legendary Eye of God skill. Hwa-Yoon explains the base ability. It grants perfect vision over an opponent's stats. It was a unique skill from his past life. Only one exists in the world. As it levels up, the power scaling becomes monstrous. It stops being just a vision enhancement. At tier 2, it tracks microscopic muscle tremors and heartbeats. Paired with an invisible blade, it guarantees a lethal strike every time. Min-Soo says they can deduce the skill's location using the forum, and the site archives every cleared dungeon. It also holds the fragmented records of his past life clears. Checking every single gate is a massive waste of time. High-level guilds track his every move to steal his build. Project Lee Hwa-Yoon is in full effect across the country. In their previous lives, guilds documented his combat patterns for research. Now, they use those notes as a treasure map to hunt his drops. They plan to ambush him the second he acquires his endgame skills. The detailed records are their greatest weapon. Min-Soo confirms that the major guilds kept the most meticulous logs. By tracking which gates he clears, they can predict his exact route. The General Guild is the biggest threat on the board. Led by the Poison King, they hold a monopoly on raw intelligence. They are pooling all their resources to secure the Eye of God. Regressors prefer targeting legendary artifacts over basic gear. Why hunt when they can kill him after he retrieves it? Hwa-Yoon realizes his brutal clearing methods put the fear of death into them. The forum updates. Poison Choi clears a level 21 gate. 2 names dominate the top of the global leaderboards. Hwa-Yoon pulls up his status window to prepare for the inevitable clash. He allocates his remaining points into concentration. Concentration allows him to fully utilize his monstrous physical strength in bare-handed combat. He visualizes evading a strike, feeling the heightened reaction time. The stat gives him a lethal edge even when his active skills are on cooldown. He taps into the flow of ambient mana, feeling the energy hum beneath his skin. Min-Soo suggests a full frontal assault on the guild headquarters. Hwa-Yoon shakes his head. Infiltration yields much better intelligence than torture. He announces a direct trip into the belly of the beast. Min-Soo insists on upgrading his wardrobe before they go. Hwa-Yoon thinks basic sweats are fine, but the kid drags him along anyway. They arrive at an upscale boutique in Gangnam. The shop caters specifically to high-level players, stocking enchanted armor. Min-Soo holds up a hideous leopard print shirt. The shop owner intervenes before Hwa-Yoon sets the shirt on fire. He presents a sleek, dark rogue outfit tailored for high mobility. The owner comps the entire purchase, desperate to earn favor with a legend. Hwa-Yoon walks out in his new combat attire, a long, dark cloak and wrapped gauntlets. He asks how to manually level up his stealth skill. Min-Soo explains the proficiency system. Repetition breeds mastery. Using a skill repeatedly under pressure increases its rank. They head to a low-level testing ground to farm points. The basic goblin and orc dungeon is perfect for target practice. A massive green orc stomps forward, roaring a challenge. Hwa-Yoon activates stealth, dropping his visual signature to 0. The brute looks around, confused by the vanishing act. Hwa-Yoon tries to trigger his armor skill simultaneously for maximum defense. The system denies the dual cast. Only one active skill allowed. Sticking to stealth, he materializes directly behind the monster. A clean cut with the invisible dagger severs its spinal cord. Green blood paints the floor as the giant collapses. As his persistence pays off after multiple precision kills, the notification confirms stealth has reached level 2. He asks for the exact coordinates of the General Guild headquarters. The towering skyscraper dominates the Cheongdam skyline. Expensive cars line the entrance, marking the wealth of the guild elites. Hwa-Yoon cloaks himself. At level 2, his body and clothes turn completely transparent. An executive swipes his keycard to open the private elevator. Hwa-Yoon slides through the closing doors right behind him. The executive shivers, feeling a sudden chill in the enclosed space. A lobby directory points to the 3rd floor meeting room. Inside, the guild's upper management sits in high-backed leather chairs. Hwa-Yoon leans against the wall, taking mental notes on every face in the room. The guildmaster is absent. That currently out hunting a level 23 boss. The executives are waiting for the day their leader claims the Eye of God. A heated argument erupts over their inability to track Hwa-Yoon's movements. Vice Guildmaster Choi Han-sung demands a status report on the target's location. Hwa-Yoon smirks in the shadows. He is standing right next to them. Han-sung admits they are terrified of losing the ultimate skill to the anomaly. The Vice Guildmaster begs the room to stay calm, completely unaware that the Reaper is already inside the walls. A set of fangs bare in a snarl as the words echo through the hall. Vice Guildmaster Choi Han-sung brings a heavy binder down against the wooden podium. The projection screen displays the impossible, a holographic image of Hwa-Yoon flipping the bird, bordered by a stat window reading over 1,000 strength. Han-sung rubs his temples, fighting a massive headache. He tosses the thick stack of printed intelligence reports onto the desk. He refuses to believe the numbers. At this stage of the regression, that kind of physical power breaks every known parameter. The presentation shifts to the target's past life trajectory, highlighting the exact date he acquired the Eye of God. A hand raises from the front row. Han Woo-sung stands. In the previous timeline, he was one of the victims slaughtered by Hwa-Yoon in the Black Ogre dungeon, and 3 other members of the elite vanguard raise their hands, confirming the shared trauma. Invisible and standing right behind them, Hwa-Yoon listens. He has no memory of killing these specific people. Yoo-jin shivers, recalling the sheer terror of that day. Hwa-Yoon shifts his position, standing inches from the back of Woo-sung's neck. The 2 male knights tremble, the phantom pain of their past deaths still haunting them. Yoo-jin regains her composure. The guild spent 10 years documenting everything about the monster who killed them. Hwa-Yoon leans against the wall, staring at the massive physical record book held by an executive. Pages filled with high-tier items, boss weaknesses, and spawn locations. A treasure map drawn from a decade of stolen time. The system rewards him with a butterfly effect point just for eavesdropping on his own assassination plot. A smirk crosses his face. Han-sung leans forward, asking the Vanguard squad if they are prepared for revenge. Yoo-jin steps out from the line, hand on her chest. Her eyes burn with absolute conviction. She promises to sever Hwa-Yoon's head and retrieve the legendary skill. Han-sung smiles, pleased by her bloodlust. Yoo-jin produces a glass vial filled with a viscous black liquid. SA2. The room goes dead silent. The World Players Association banned that substance for catastrophic reasons. Hwa-Yoon pulls out his smartphone in the shadows, sending a quick text to Min-soo. The kid replies almost immediately, pulling up the black market data. SA2 mutates standard monsters into civilization-ending threats. Humans used it to turn basic drops into superior technology, refining monster bones into iron-piercing steel. Min-soo's text questions why the General Guild would possess a banned military asset. Yoo-jin argues that an anomaly with 1,000 strength requires an anomaly-level execution squad. They plan to hypermutate the Black Ogres and let the beasts do the butchering for them. Hwa-Yoon reads the explanation, grasping the sheer cowardice of their strategy. Min-soo warns that the drug's effect lasts 24 hours. The Vice Master confirms the timetable. The ogres will hit level 100. They just need to wait out the clock and pick Hwa-Yoon's bones clean. Han-sung folds his arms, proud of the guaranteed trap. The Guildmaster is currently out grinding a level 23 gate to prepare for the aftermath. Yoo-jin breathes out a sigh of relief, glad the executives approved the extreme measure. Hwa-Yoon decides to rattle their cage. He allocates raw bonus points straight into his mana pool. The number jumps from 98 to 341 in a heartbeat. Yoo-jin's eyes snap wide open. She looks around the room, sensing a massive disruption in the ambient energy flow. Woo-sung questions her panic. Nobody in their right mind channels a skill during a strategy meeting. Hwa-Yoon curses under his breath. The stealth skill drains mana fast, and dumping points caused a ripple effect. The heavy meeting room doors swing open. Every executive jumps to their feet. Yoo-jin stammers, assuming the oppressive aura came from their guildmaster's arrival. Han-sung glares at the doorway, sensing the raw pressure hanging in the air. Yoo-jin bows her head, made terrified of the invisible weight pressing down on her shoulders. Han-sung walks down the center aisle, stepping right past the invisible Reaper. Hwa-Yoon's eyes track the Vice Master's movement. Han-sung forces a smile, telling the room to relax. He asks for the exact details on the SA2 deployment. He strokes his chin, processing the tactical variables. A single bead of cold sweat rolls down his neck. The confident posture is a complete lie. He dismisses the Vanguard, ordering them to prepare for deployment. The squad files out into the grand hallway. Hwa-Yoon slides right through the gap between their shoulders. He whispers a quiet farewell, promising a reunion in the dirt. Han-sung tells his remaining aides to prioritize the historical record books above all else. Hwa-Yoon follows an admin down the corridor, matching his pace. They stop in front of a reinforced steel door marked Record Archive. The admin swipes his keycard. Hwa-Yoon slips inside the closing gap. His sky-high concentration stat suppresses the sound of his boots. The room is lined floor to ceiling with secured filing cabinets. Hwa-Yoon smiles. He found the gold mine. A metal lighter flips open, casting a warm orange glow across the sterile room. He picks up the master binder, the Lee Hwa-Yoon Project. The archive clerk sits bound and gagged on the floor, staring up at the intruder. A system window hovers next to the man's face, displaying the lethal toxicity of blue monkey fur. Hwa-Yoon ignores the whimpering hostage and flips open the heavy cover. The pages are filled with meticulous dossiers on the players he killed in his past life. He reads the combat logs. The book details the exact moment his body mutated after clearing a level 240 145 dungeon. The page features a sketch of a dark, blurry figure destroying a city block. The intelligence notes confirm Choi Chul-sung plans to steal that exact power form. Hwa-yoon snaps a photo of the final page for his own records. He turns his back on the bound clerk and walks toward the exit. He drives his fist straight through the reinforced steel cabinet, crushing the remaining files. He drops the toxic fur into the wreckage. Purple smoke floods the room as 10 years of stolen knowledge burns to ash. He walks out onto the rain-slicked highway, leaving the building behind him. The system goes wild. Destroying the archive forces the timeline to adapt to a massive blind spot. His status window updates. All 1,021 raw bonus points sit in the bank. He meets Minsu in a secluded cavern. He dumps every single new point into pure strength, pushing the number past 2,000. Minsu warns him about the impending SA2 trap. A mutated monster is a wild card. The kid nods, scrolling through the dark web logs on his phone to find specifics. The drug does not just increase muscle mass, it supercharges the beast's natural attributes and removes the pain response. The developers hoped the game system would reward better loot for artificial difficulty spikes. The system refused to cooperate. Hwa-yoon points to a low-level green goblin cowering near the cave entrance. Minsu holds up a stolen canister of SA2. Time for a live fire field test. The kid hurls the metal cylinder across the rocks. It strikes the goblin right on the thigh. The pressurized fluid bursts, coating the creature in thick black sludge. The goblin screams as its bones crack and expand. Blood sprays from its stretching jaw. Minsu recoils, terrified by the sheer speed of the mutation. Hwa-yoon meets the frantic, roaring beast head-on, catching its claws. He drives his fingers straight into the creature's skull, shattering the bone plate. Two more infected monsters emerge from the shadows. Golden Tooth zombies. The system tags them at level 27. Hwa-yoon covers his nose. The SA2 amplified their natural stench into a suffocating toxic cloud. He brings his elbow down on the first zombie, caving its skull in. The creature keeps moving, its brain destroyed, but its mutated muscles refusing to stop. Hwa-yoon readies his mana. Decapitation is the only reliable off-switch. The dagger of destruction moves in a blinding arc, carving through multiple necks at once. The headless corpses hit the dirt. The system acknowledges the massacre. Level 28 achieved. 456 bonus points granted for a flawless execution. He stares at the notification panel. The numbers prove that fighting mutated monsters yields standard low-level rewards. He grips the glowing blue screen, crushing it in his fist. He finishes the last struggling zombie with a downward stab. A prompt appears. The cavern is cleared. 3 minutes until closure. Outside in the park, a massive portal of golden lightning tears open reality. The proficiency for his butterfly effect skill ranks up. Hwa-yoon walks out of the cave and stares at the blinding light. The system warns him that his actions are destabilizing the intended future. He squints at the prompt. The god running this game is unhappy with his progress. Minsu stands frozen near a swing set, watching the golden storm rage. Hwa-yoon arrives, a smudge of monster blood painted across his cheek. The kid stammers, noting they still have 2 system questions left to decipher the anomaly. Hwa-yoon suggests asking for the specific proficiency requirements of his unique skill. Minsu triggers the query. The blue panel flashes. The system pauses, calculating the request. The kid's eyes widen in horror. He yells out in frustration. The system refused to answer and consumed the question anyway. Hwa-yoon crosses his arms, analyzing the failure. Minsu grips his hair, furious at the waste of a priceless resource. Hwa-yoon tells him to calm down. But the system block confirms that his skill operates outside the intended game parameters. The golden gate pulses, casting heavy shadows across the pavement. Special dungeon level 1. Difficulty S rank. Minsu asks what kind of nightmare spawns a golden rift. Hwa-yoon reads the notification. The gate formed specifically because he hoarded over 4,000 points. He tells Minsu to use the final question on the portal itself. The system has to answer a query about an existing physical object. He points directly at the swirling lightning. Minsu issues the command just as the 30-second closure warning chimes. Hwa-yoon unclips his dagger. He intends to go inside regardless of the answer. The system panel finally updates, projecting the lore behind the anomaly. Special gates spawn as an immune response. The game creator deploys them to hunt down players who break the power balance. An image of a scale tips. Hwa-yoon is too heavy for the current stage of the game. Minsu sighs. The execution order is signed, and the executioner is waiting on the other side. The panel explicitly names Lee Hwa-yoon as the target. The kid reads the final sentence, realizing any player who enters can claim the rewards if they survive. The system confirms it patched the information leak, preventing further questions. Minsu glares at the screen, annoyed by the arbitrary rule changes. He realizes the entire game is rigged to maintain an artificial status quo. Hwa-yoon watches the lightning dance across the air. Minsu curses the invisible game master. Hwa-yoon smiles. An execution squad means premium loot drops are guaranteed. He steps through the rift. It's surrounded by a suffocating blue mist. Clearing an S-rank dungeon at this stage grants a unique class skill. The risk is worth the price. A lone green goblin stands in the clearing. It looks identical to a basic level 4 mob. The creature turns its head, revealing a set of jagged, intelligent fangs. It grins, thrilled to finally see its designated prey. Hwa-yoon tightens his grip on his blade. Regular goblins lack the vocal cords for human speech. The red tag materializes. Level 200. Special Guardian. He stares stares at the number, recognizing the sheer mathematical disadvantage. The Guardian cackles, assuming the human is paralyzed by fear. Its grin stretches wider, hungry for blood. The monster raises a hand, unleashing a torrential wave of compressed hellfire. The flames engulf Hua-Yun, melting the dirt and rock beneath his boots. The Guardian laughs, confident the fight ended in a single strike. The smoke clears, revealing a hardened wall of blue mana. A notification chimes. The armor skill met its damage limit and leveled up. Hua-Yun stands completely untouched inside the roaring inferno. He smirks. The Guardian's overwhelming magic output just supercharged his defense. Armor level 2 acquired. The shield now emits a counter shockwave upon impact. He reads the prompt, intrigued by the offensive upgrade. The Guardian's smile drops. A level 28 human surviving, that blast breaks all game logic. Hua-Yun steps forward, his eyes locked on the target. He raises his hand, triggering the petrify skill. The goblin freezes mid-stride, its muscles locking into solid stone. The creature's eyes dart wildly, trapped in its own body. Hua-Yun bridges the gap instantly and grips the monster directly by the face. He drives it into the bedrock with bone-shattering force. The stone floor cracks, but the creature's skull holds together. He leaps back as the Guardian breaks the paralysis and charges. The monster gasps for air, furious at the humiliation. A copy of the beast splits from its side. Dozens of illusion clones flood the cavern, surrounding the intruder. They laugh in unison, raising their claws for a coordinated strike. The horde lunges forward, aiming to tear him apart. Hua-Yun doesn't swing. He releases a raw pulse of mana, triggering his new shockwave ability. He zeroes in on the real Guardian and drives a heavy fist straight into its chest. The impact creates a localized sonic boom, rippling through the blue mist. The shockwave tears the illusions to shreds, clearing the battlefield instantly. Hua-Yun stands in the blast radius, impressed by the raw output. The Guardian lies in the dirt, coughing up black blood. It stares up at the human, experiencing genuine terror for the first time. Hua-Yun blurs forward, offering zero time for recovery. The monster raises its arms in a desperate block, bracing for the impact. A pair of surviving clones scream at their master to dodge. Hua-Yun closes the distance faster than their eyes can track. He pulls up his status window, mid-sprint. 1,400 bonus points remain. He dumps every single point into pure strength, hitting 3,486. His eyes burn with red energy. This is annoying. The Guardian stares at the descending fist, realizing the power scaling is hopelessly broken. It screams a curse against the god that sent it to die. The strike connects, carving a massive trench through the dungeon floor. The shockwave obliterates the monster's torso, painting the cavern walls green. A cascade of level-up notifications floods his vision. He smiles, catching his breath amidst the falling debris. The golden portal reopens. The S-rank executioner has been executed. The system flashes, awarding the prize meant for a god killer, Eye of Reversal level 1. The ability to read the memories of any player or monster at a lower level. Hua-Yun reads the description. This is an intelligence goldmine. The regressors hold a massive advantage purely because they remember the next 10 years. They know the spawn locations of every legendary item and the weaknesses of every boss. The Eye of Reversal bridges that gap. He can steal their future knowledge directly from their heads. He walks out of the Golden Gate, finding Minsu waiting by a park bench. He looks at the kid, deciding he is the perfect harmless test subject. He targets Minsu and initiates the skill sequence. A massive holographic video feed projects into the air. The memory displays Minsu inside a supermarket from the very first day of the apocalypse. The scene shows the exact moment the goblins broke through the grocery aisles, tearing the store apart. Minsu watches his own past trauma replay in high definition, completely stunned. He sees his younger self begging Hua-Yun for protection amidst the slaughter. Hua-Yun smiles, watching the pathetic display play out like a movie. He asks the kid if this is exactly how he remembers the panic feeling. Minsu blushes bright red, deeply embarrassed by the cowardly memory. He asks Hua-Yun what other memories he extracted. Hua-Yun reads a text line indicating Minsu's secret desire to kill all monsters and rule the world. The kid freezes, his ultimate fantasy exposed. Hua-Yun taps the rewind icon, navigating the memory feed effortlessly. He replays the clip, analyzing the surrounding data. He turns to Minsu with a mocking grin. "My lord." Hua-Yun laughs out loud. The kid's grand ambition is genuinely hilarious. Minsu screams for him to turn the feed off, mortified. Later that evening, Minsu scrolls through the game's forum on his smartphone. The message boards are having a meltdown over Hua-Yun's insane clearing speeds. One post correctly theorizes that rushing the gates is the fastest path to the final dungeon. Hua-Yun sits on his couch, analyzing the shifting global hierarchy. And in earning a spot in the top 10 grants, complete immunity from world governments and tax codes, he imagines the luxury of that position, a throne built on raw power. But the cash and status are secondary. The real prize lies beyond the final dungeon. He rests his chin on his hand. The objective is simple: finish the game before anyone else. Minsu interrupts his planning, shouting from the other side of the couch. Poison Choi just cleared a level 31 dungeon in record time. Hua-Yun frowns. The speed of that clear indicates unnatural assistance. Minsu confirms the math. It is impossible for the guildmaster to move that fast without a new variable. They realize the general guild is speedrunning the exact path required to intercept the Eye of God. Minsu panics, asking if a direct confrontation is unavoidable, though Hua-Yun waves off the concern. A fight implies the opponent has a chance to win. He smiles. This will be in execution. They head to a level 30 Darkhorn Hog dungeon to test his new stats. Massive boars with steel-piercing tusks roam the wasteland, tearing up the earth. A single strike from those horns would impale a standard player instantly. Hwoyun sweats, feeling the drain on his mana pool from overusing his new skills. He pulls his dagger. The horns are prime crafting material for legendary gear. The Eye of Reversal consumes an immense amount of energy. Miles away, Minsu sneezes, feeling a sudden chill. Hwoyun applies his remaining bonus points directly into his mana to sustain the hunt. He blasts forward, a blur of blue energy against the barren landscape. A massive hog charges him head-on, its red eyes locked on the target. The beast crashes into him, shattering the ground beneath his boots. He shouts, triggering the armor skill at the exact moment of collision. He wraps his hand around the deadly tusk, stopping thousands of pounds of momentum dead. The counter shockwave repels the beast, sending it skidding backward. Hwoyun grins. The armor holds perfectly under heavy physical trauma. The remaining hogs wail in confusion, unable to process the unmoving wall of flesh. He draws the dagger of destruction and steps into the herd. The blade absorbs his mana, humming with lethal intent. He carves through the thick hide like wet paper, dismantling the pack in seconds. He stares at the blood-soaked blade, slightly disappointed by the lack of challenge. A dying hog screams its final breath. He holds a severed horn in his palm, and feeling the dense weight of the material, he tosses it into his inventory, securing the payday. The system announces the dungeon clear. He walks out of the portal, leaving a graveyard of crushed boars behind him. Back at the apartment, he lays in bed, staring at the ceiling as exhaustion sets in. He asks Minsu for the location of the nearest level 32 gates. The kid confirms there are only 2 active spawns in South Korea. Hwoyun knows the General Guild will be waiting at one of them. He tosses his phone onto the mattress. If he clears the 32 gate, it forces the 33 to spawn. Minsu looks up, trying to follow the logic. Hwoyun explains the mind game. The guild expects him to rush the gates sequentially. Minsu realizes that if they both skip the 32 gate and wait at the 33 spawn, thus the system stalls. The kid's eyes widen. It is a deadly game of chicken. Hwoyun checks his messages, waiting for the opponent to make the first move. The forum updates. Poison Choi just cleared the level 32 Gargoyle Gate. The trap is officially set. In the dense forest, the blazing red portal of the Black Ogre dungeon pulses with heat. Vice Master Hansung grips a canister of SA2, his thumb resting on the pin. Yujin stands beside him, nervous about deploying the banned substance. The portal crackles, spilling violent energy into the clearing. She asks if the drug is potent enough to kill a man with over 1,000 strength. Hansung takes a slow drag from his cigarette, his expression unreadable. He explains that raw numbers mean nothing against a hyper-mutated swarm. A 20-times stat multiplier turns the ogres into unstoppable raid bosses. The plan is flawless. Administer the drug, then let the monsters execute Hwoyun, and collect the Eye of God when the effect wears off. The cigarette drops from his fingers. His heavy boot grinds the cherry into the dirt. He leads the vanguard squad directly into the fiery rift. The team halts just inside the entrance, drawing their weapons. Massive gray ogres turn their horned heads toward the intruders. Hansung locks eyes with the horde. He pulls the pin and throws the canister into the center of the mob. The cylinder rolls across the stone floor, hissing as it breaches. The ogres inhale the toxic black fumes. Their eyes ignite with furious purple energy. Hansung checks his watch. Hwoyun will arrive in exactly 2 hours. The squad retreats to a reinforced rock bunker near the entrance to watch the slaughter safely. The golden light of late afternoon hits the portal exterior. Hwoyun arrives at the perimeter. The woods are dead silent. He surveys the area. For an elite assassination squad, they left a terrible trail. Muddy boot prints lead straight into the glowing gate. The ambushers are already inside. Minsu begs him to wait 24 hours for the drug's effect to expire. Hwoyun shakes his head. Waiting gives the guild time to deploy a secondary trap. Predictability gets you killed. He taps his system panel, dumping his remaining bonus points entirely into stamina. Minsu agrees to stay hidden in the brush, telling his boss to call if things go wrong. Hwoyun steps through the portal, entering the Lion's Den. Deep inside the General Guild, HQ, a wall of monitors tracks his every movement. The admin reports that the target has entered the kill zone. Hansung smiles inside the bunker. His trap springing shut exactly on schedule. Inside the dungeon, Hwoyun surveys the mutated horde while cloaked in stealth. A heavy footstep shakes the cavern floor behind him. A massive glowing purple eye locks onto his position. The beasts wield huge iron axes, their bodies radiating toxic smoke. They breathe heavily, their senses hyper-tuned to track his invisible mana signature. An ogre swings its broadaxe in a horizontal cleave that shatters the surrounding stone. Hwoyun realizes the SA2 didn't just boost their strength, it heightened their predatory instincts. He sweats, recognizing the immediate danger. The monster bellows, its fangs dripping with acidic saliva. Hwoyun drops stealth and triggers his armor skill simultaneously. He grits his teeth, bracing for the impact of a level 100 strike. The massive axe crashes down against his hardened mana shield. The shockwave cracks the floor, but the blade bounces off his aura. The monster threw its weapon to test his defense. Hwoyun locks eyes with the beast. The warm-up is over. He drives the dagger of destruction deep into the ogre's thigh. The blade sinks to the hilt, severing muscle and tendon. Black blood sprays across his cheek. He smiles. The mutated hide is still soft enough to butcher. He moves in a flurry of strikes, hacking the monster to pieces. A second ogre leaps into the fray, bringing its axe down like a guillotine. It towers over him, purple energy bleeding from its skin. Hwa-Yoon blocks the overhead strike with a burst of mana, trusting his raw density. He evades a secondary swipe, reading the beast's telegraphed motion. He grips the iron handle of the beast's own weapon, stopping its momentum entirely. The Black Ogre axe description pops up, a heavy, blunt instrument requiring massive base stats to wield. The surrounding ogres roar in confusion, unable to comprehend a human, matching their strength. He rips the axe from the monster's grip and swings it in a massive upward arc. The heavy iron blade severs the ogre's torso in a single brutal motion. Hwa-Yoon stands soaked in monster blood, his red eyes glowing in the dark. The remaining horde charges him simultaneously, a tidal wave of purple muscle and steel. He breathes in, ready to dismantle them, piece by piece. He closes the gap, meeting the charge head-on. The control room monitors log his real-time output. Strength, 4,305. The number climbs. 4,306. And climbs. 4,307. The system registers the impossible load. He shatters an ogre's ribs with a devastating flurry of punches. A massive variant bellows, swinging a bone-crushing backhand. The system pings another bonus point, acknowledging the timeline fracture. He meets the giant's fist with his own, the collision echoing through the cave. He wraps his hands around the beast's thick waist, hoisting the giant off its feet. He throws the multi-ton monster across the cavern like a ragdoll. The ogre hits the wall, its spine shattering on impact. He severs its head with a flick of his blade to ensure it stays down. 9 corpses litter the floor. Only one heavily mutated beast remains, barely breathing. He looks directly at the hidden security camera mounted near the ceiling. He tosses the severed ogre head straight at the lens. The heavy skull crushes the camera into shrapnel. He smiles in the dark. The broadcast is over. His voice carries through the cavern, mocking the Vice Master's failed execution. He promises to find them in their little bunker. The control room descends into dead silence. The massive central screen shows nothing but static. Vice Master Han-sung trembles, his flawless calculation reduced to garbage. He orders the tech team to split the screen and contact the Guildmaster immediately. The admins type frantically, trying to re-establish a connection. Han-sung bites his nail, panic overriding his arrogant facade. The lead admin stammers, admitting the worst-case scenario. Hwa-Yoon is clearing the mutated gate effortlessly. Han-sung's face contorts. He demands to know how the target disabled the feed. He pulls at his collar, is suffocating under the pressure of his own failure. The admin confirms that Hwa-Yoon used the severed heads as projectiles. Han-sung grits his teeth so hard, he nearly chips a molar. He demands the bio team deliver a new poison specifically engineered to kill the anomaly. The admin panics, stating the chemical is still in early production and untested. Han-sung issues a cold, simple order. Execute the control administrator. A gunshot rings out. The admin falls, a bullet hole right between the eyes. The room screams in terror. The Vice Master declares that useless employees will face the same fate. The terrified technicians scream their compliance. Han-sung throws a glass against the wall, shattering it into pieces. He holds up a black canister, the Guildmaster's signature weapon, the poison enhancer. In the previous timeline, Choi Chul-sung earned the title of Poison King by using this exact chemical to melt raid bosses from the inside out. Back in the dungeon bunker, the Vanguard squad watches the feed cut out. They are officially blind. The blonde knight asks how they are supposed to survive the monster hunting them. Han-sung's voice crackles over the radio. They have exactly 2 hours before Hwa-Yoon breaches the door. The squad freezes in absolute dread. The Vice Master promises them eternal glory if they can hold the line. Outside in the cavern, Hwa-Yoon stretches his neck, annoyed by the delay. The mutated ogres keep respawning from the shadows, flooding the room with fresh meat. He cleaves through a respawned beast, painting the floor green again. He drives his fist straight through a monster's hardened chestplate. The endless wave of bodies is starting to feel like a chore rather than a challenge. He drops into a low stance, ready to end the cycle. He decides to stop playing with the trash and focus on the main objective. The system announces that the maximum number of players have entered the dungeon. No one else can get in or out. Inside the bunker, the squad huddles together, weapons drawn and shaking. A massive impact rocks the reinforced steel door. Yujin stares at the buckling metal, her heart hammering against her ribs. The door crashes open. The blood-soaked Reaper walks slowly into the bunker. The blonde knight hyperventilates, unable to comprehend how a human fought level 100 monsters without taking a single scratch. The squad leader screams in order to attack, desperate to buy time. Hwa-Yoon's single red eye glows in the dim light of the bunker. He stares at them, radiating pure, unadulterated violence. The squad leader charges in a frantic, screaming assault, his sword raised high. Hwa-Yoon catches the man by the throat mid-swing, lifting him entirely off the floor. He holds the struggling knight in the air, his grip like a steel vice. The rest of the squad watches in horror as their strongest fighter is rendered completely helpless. Hwa-Yoon smiles, asking if snapping his neck quickly isn't the most humane option. The knight chokes out a pathetic groan. The blonde member tightens his grip on his sword, trying to rally the others. Hwa-Yoon tells them to drop the weapons and quit. The fight ended before it started. He activates Eye of Reversal on the struggling squad leader. The man's eyes widen as the invasive magic digs into his skull. The system window overrides Hwa-Yoon's vision, pulling the knight's recent memories. He watches the playback of Han-sung issuing orders from the control room just minutes ago. The memory reveals the Vice Master holding the poison enhancer canister. Hwa-yoon taps the holographic screen, pausing the feed. He listens to the recorded audio. The enhancer is designed to melt high-tier armor instantly. Hansung's recorded face stares back at him, arrogant and fully confident in the new weapon. Hwa-yoon squints, analyzing the chemical properties. The squad leader thrashes in his grip, trying to break the hold. Hwa-yoon tightens his fingers, warning the man that any more movement will result in a shattered windpipe. The knight grits his teeth, tears of pain welling in his eyes. Hwa-yoon wipes a smudge of blood from his lip, processing the intel. He connects the dots. The poison enhancer doesn't just bypass armor, it utilizes a spider venom derivative to dissolve mana shields. He hits play, continuing the memory extraction. The feed shows Hansung demanding the lethal variant in under 3 hours. Hwa-yoon laughs out loud. The Great General Guild is scrambling to build a weapon they don't even have yet, a poison meant to melt. His legendary armor is still sitting in a laboratory. He looks at the terrified squad, realizing they are nothing but disposable bait. He tells the choking knight that their guildmaster's grand plan is a complete joke. He tosses the squad leader aside like a piece of trash. The man begs for his life. Hwa-yoon asks why he should spare the people who tried to murder him twice. The blonde knight steps forward, offering a desperate negotiation. Hwa-yoon ignores the plea. He triggers his armor and stealth skills simultaneously. He explains the mechanics. By rapidly flickering between the two skills, he creates an unbreakable, invisible shield. A system prompt interrupts the slaughter. The game server is initiating a forced restart. Hwa-yoon glares at the red text. The system is trying to save the timeline from his interference. He turns his attention back to the squad, asking why the Poison King didn't show up to save his loyal dogs. The squad leader screams for mercy, tears streaming down his face. Hwa-yoon raises his dagger. They wouldn't have shown him mercy if the trap had worked. The blonde knight screams a final curse. Blood paints the bunker walls in a sickening display of absolute dominance. The vanguard is wiped out. With the trash cleared, he focuses on the true prize. Choi Chul-sung is next. He walks out of the bunker, stepping back into the fiery cavern. A massive glowing red gem sits in the dirt next to the final ogre corpse. He cuts the beast open to ensure the drop is clean. He stares at the crystal, feeling the immense mana radiating from its core. Eye of God level 1, the legendary artifact that sparked this entire war. He grips the crystal tightly, letting its power merge with his system. The skill description warns that targeting a higher level entity will plunge the user into the darkness of the void. He laughs at the threat. He promises to use the skill to dismantle the Poison King's entire empire. He turns his face directly toward the remaining security camera lens. In the control room, Hansung watches the red-eyed demons smile at him through the monitor. The bunker feed is dead. The admin stutters that Hwa-yoon's power has officially eclipsed the entire guild's capacity. Hansung demands to know why the analytics team didn't predict this slaughter. The tech explains that SA2 only mutated their bodies. It didn't give them the intelligence to fight a god. The admin points out the terrifying reality. The gate is still open because Hwa-yoon hasn't left. He is standing inside the dungeon, waiting for the guildmaster to arrive. Hansung refuses to believe that the greatest player in Korea is now the hunted prey. He stares at the screen, the horrifying truth finally sinking in. The trap was a dinner bell. The grand double doors swing open. Choi Chul-sung, the Poison King, steps into the control room. Guildmaster Choi Chul-sung rubs his temples, a migraine forming behind his eyes. 3 hours have passed. The specialized poison enhancer is still nowhere to be found. The lead researcher bows, sweating through his collar. He stammers out the reality of the situation. The final product needs 3 more days of synthesis. Chul-sung's eyes widen in sheer panic. If Hwa-yoon claims the unique class skill from the level 51 gate first, the guild is finished. He grips the trembling scientist's face. The vanguard guards watch the interrogation in absolute silence. He demands absolute certainty that the weapon will be ready. His aura flares with toxic green energy. He promises a painful execution for anyone who proves useless to his grand design. The message is crystal clear. The man coughs violently, choking on the Poison King's raw killing intent. Chul-sung drops him to the floor. He orders extra security stationed around the laboratory immediately. The weapon is their only lifeline to stop the anomaly. He plans to strip Hwa-yoon of everything he owns and execute him. Meanwhile, outside a blazing portal, Hwa-yoon evaluates the empty perimeter, completely unimpressed. The objective remains simple: eliminate the Poison King. Invading the headquarters directly and slaughtering the guild is one option, but manipulating the guild's massive national influence yields a much higher payout in the long run. He needs them alive, just under new management. He checks the stolen archive records. The guild expects him at the Silver Armor Gate. They think they can predict his exact loadout based on his past life. The regressors are terrified of him reclaiming his endgame arsenal. He decides to change the script entirely. He orders Minsu to lead the way. The kid jumps at the sudden command. Minsu checks the dark web tracking data. The secret enhancer factory is located in Paju. Hwa-yoon smiles. It is time for a demolition job. Before they leave, he tests the newly acquired Eye of God on his sidekick. Minsu's status window pops up in thin air. He reads the pathetic level 11 stats out loud. He warns the kid that his numbers are low enough to get swept into the underworld by a stiff breeze. He pats Minsu's shoulder. The kid stares up, waiting for a compliment. Instead, Hwa-yoon reminds him that there can only be one absolute ruler in this timeline. Minsu blushes bright red, furious at the total invasion of privacy. They head toward the Paju target. Minsu points to a brand new luxury sedan, bought with the massive cash payout from selling monster drops. Hwa-yoon pulls up his own status window from the passenger seat. Over 2,000 bonus points sit unspent in his inventory. He dumps every single point into pure concentration. A high concentration stat enhances the analytical power of the Eye of God. It also gives him the precision needed to control his monstrous physical strength. A system notification chimes across his vision. He claims the King of Concentration achievement. He turns to his driver, ready to test the rewards. He unlocks Paralyze level 1. He points a finger at Minsu, selecting vision as the target sense. The kid's vision cuts out instantly. They arrive at the factory. Hwa-yoon tells him to stay in the car. He steps out, all but wrapping his fist in concentrated blue mana. He drives a devastating strike straight into the concrete foundation. The shockwave tears through the building, shattering lab equipment and throwing scientists to the floor. He stands at the entrance, a one-man demolition crew wrapped in a dark cloak. He demands they bring out the Poison King. A trembling scientist stammers out an apology. The guild master isn't here. Hwa-yoon doesn't care. He shatters a load-bearing wall with a casual backhand. The staff scream for mercy, holding their heads as the ceiling groans. He ignores them, tearing through the facility's core defenses. Debris rains down as the laboratory begins to collapse on itself. Minsu watches from the safety of the car, stunned by the sheer scale of the destruction. Explosions chain across the compound, lighting up the night sky. Hwa-yoon holds a master blueprint of the facility, tracking the structural weak points. He locates the final support pillar. He smiles. Time to bury the guildmaster's master plan. He punches through the thick steel with a burst of localized gravity magic. The ceiling caves in entirely. He walks out as the roof crashes down behind him. Choi Chul-sung arrives at the ruins just as the dust settles. His face is pale with unrestrained rage. Hwa-yoon scans him. Level 47. The status window confirms his lethal poison abilities. The Poison King screams, calling him a coward for targeting a civilian lab. Hwa-yoon flashes a wicked grin. He points out the rank hypocrisy. The General Guild used illegal toxic gas in a dungeon ambush just days ago. He stands atop the rubble, looking down at his supposed rival. History is written by the winner. Chul-sung erupts, preparing his ultimate skill. A massive wave of toxic green fire surges forward. Hwa-yoon blurs, crossing the distance before the cast animation even finishes. He snatches the Poison King directly by the throat. Corrosive acid drips from Chul-sung's skin, sizzling against the dirt. The fabled armor-melting enhancer never stood a chance against raw stat superiority. The Eye of Reversal triggers, digging straight into the guildmaster's brain. A flood of stolen memories projects into the night sky. He laughs out loud. Boss patterns, item spawns, the location of the final dungeon. Everything is his now. Chul-sung thrashes in his grip, desperate to break the mind link. Hwa-yoon's free hand plunges into the man's coat. He tightens his grip, crushing the guildmaster's skull. The body falls limp. A final, brutal strike ensures the job is done permanently. He retrieves the prize, the prototype enhancer crystal. He walks back to the car, finding Minsu choking on the residual poison fumes. He shoves the glowing red core straight into the kid's mouth. The raw energy neutralizes the toxin instantly. He asks why the idiot didn't roll the windows up. Hwa-yoon wipes his chin. The Poison King's signature skill is officially his. Minsu catches his breath, thanking his boss for the last-second save. He orders the kid to prep for a raid. They are hunting the next 3 gates tonight. The next morning, headlines declare the criminal of the century dead. Choi Chul-sung's underground empire is completely dismantled. Hwa-yoon reads the articles from his apartment. The media is desperate to identify the anonymous executioner. He tells Minsu to drop the subject. Let the reporters guess. In his past life, as players who stood in the spotlight always met bad ends. He plans to engrave his achievements on a massive monument once he conquers the final dungeon. Minsu scrolls through the regressor forums on his phone. The entire world is panicking over the missing poison skills. The kid salutes, eager to start tracking the silver armor gate. The intel confirms the next target is an assassin class drop. Hwa-yoon steps toward the blue portal, tracing the exact footsteps of his past life. A system prompt flashes. Another butterfly effect bonus point acquired. They spend the next few days clearing low-level gates, hoarding massive amounts of drops. Without the factory, the global supply of poison enhancers is completely halted. He knows breaking the sequence was the right tactical move. Minsu suggests setting an official forum handle. Hwa-yoon mocks him, offering the title Henchman01. Minsu rejects it, proudly proposing Joker Kim, the wild card that came out of nowhere. The kid poses, thrilled by his own naming sense. Hwa-yoon laughs, telling him he needs to level up before claiming a title like that. They watch the news. The system requires level 34 to enter the next target zone. The global clear logs update. Fearless and Joker Kim dominate the top slots. Minsu reads the angry comments from elite players who think Joker is just a thug leeching off a pro. Hwa-yoon tells Minsu to take a break. The kid is pushing himself to the point of exhaustion. Inside a jungle gate, Hwa-yoon leans against a tree, catching his breath. It has been a month since the world reset. He hasn't rested for a single second. He checks his status window. Level 54. He drops his massive stockpile of points directly into agility. The system grants a new skill, gravity control. He smirks. The ability to manipulate pure physics. He targets a massive ancient tree to test the output. He aims the pressure field directly at the base. He commands 100 tons of force. The system rejects it. His mana pool isn't high enough yet. He dials it down to 2 tons. The invisible force crushes the massive trunk into splinters. He stares at the destruction. The power is absolutely terrifying. terrifying. The system warns him that his actions are severely altering the intended future. His phone buzzes, interrupting the warning. Minsu screams into the receiver in absolute panic. Hwoyun demands specifics immediately. A level 100 Lykan just spawned right in front of the kid. The massive wolf bares its fangs, irradiating pure killing intent. Hwoyun drops the phone and breaks into a dead sprint through the dense forest. He finds Minsu on the ground, clutching a bleeding arm. The kid stammers, completely confused by an endgame beast inside a mid-tier gate. Minsu explains the monster's sheer speed caused a vacuum blade that sliced his arm. Hwoyun isn't worried about the danger. He is thinking about the legendary loot drops. He steps in front of the kid, generating a massive wall of fire. The flames take the shape of level 38 fire serpents. He spawned the native boss monsters to flush out the invader. The Lykan drops from the canopy. It crushes a serpent under its heavy paws effortlessly. The beast swings a massive broadsword forged from compressed mana. Hwoyun dodges, the blade carving a trench through the earth. He steps into the clearing, locking eyes with the anomaly. The beast snarls, recognizing its true target. Eye of God activates. The status window confirms the beast's origin. It is a direct manifestation of his own timeline-breaking actions. He realizes the system is actively sending assassins to correct the balance. He flashes a cold smile. The Lykan charges, its blade crackling with blue lightning. The strike obliterates the ground where Hwoyun stood. He uses the dust cloud as cover and flanks the beast. The monster reads the movement and lashes out with its tail. It follows up with a horizontal execution sweep. The zone floods with dense, suffocating energy. Hwoyun meets the assault head-on, refusing to yield an inch. He slips inside the guard and shatters the beast's jaw with a single blow. The impact sends shockwaves through the entire cavern. Notifications flood his vision as the monster collapses into dust. He stares at his fist. A level 100 boss shouldn't die in one hit. His level spikes to 62. The broadsword drops into the dirt, an equipable weapon with massive damage stats. He tries to claim it for his inventory. The system rejects him. The gear is locked behind a level 100 requirement. He curses the arbitrary system restrictions. The escape timer flashes above his head. The real problem hits the news cycle a few hours later. That Lykan wasn't an isolated incident. An entire invasion force has breached New York and Tokyo. Minsu stares at the broadcast, realizing the timeline is completely broken. The kid points out that Hwoyun is the only person on Earth strong enough to kill them. The system rules demand that the next gate won't open until the strongest monster on Earth dies. The progress of every regressor on the planet is stalled until the global Lykan threat is eradicated. Hwoyun grabs his coat. They are heading to the airport. Tokyo is the closest target. A desk agent stops them at the terminal, and he explains that all commercial flights are grounded due to the monster crisis. The agent warns them that stepping foot in Japan is a death sentence. Hwoyun pulls down his mask. The agents recognize the face immediately. The savior of Korea. He demands a direct flight to Japan to kill the Lykan holding up his schedule. When the agent hesitates, Hwoyun shatters the linoleum floor with a pulse of mana. The sheer pressure forces immediate compliance. The World Player Association provides a luxury private jet within minutes. A female agent named Nami introduces herself as the official interpreter. Hwoyun ignores her entirely, pulling his hood up to sleep. Nami practically vibrates with annoyance. No famous player has ever brushed her off like this. She snaps, lecturing him about the hundreds of players dying in Tokyo right now, and she recalls her superior's strict warning to not provoke the anomaly. She grips her clipboard, furious but completely powerless. He tells her the political theater is too troublesome to entertain. She requests his presence in the cockpit to review the drop coordinates. The pilot hands him a tablet with the live feed. Hwoyun's eyes widen at the sheer scale of the destruction. The Lykan is tearing through skyscrapers, backed by a massive horde of lesser monsters. The beast isn't just killing, it's actively pulling monsters from other dungeons to build an army. Before they drop, Nami hugs Minsu tightly. Minsu squirms in her grip, thoroughly embarrassed by the unprompted affection. She gives them the final rendezvous point at the Tokyo hotel. They land in Tokyo. The city is a burning graveyard. Hwoyun analyzes the chaos. The scale of the butterfly effect is worse than he calculated. The Lykan is acting as a mobile gate, ignoring all established game mechanics. He tells Minsu this is the perfect time to strike, while the beast is distracted. He summons his level 38 fire serpents onto the pavement. He orders the kid to spray the poison enhancer at the front gate to lock down the perimeter. He draws his dagger and begins butchering the low-level spawn flooding the streets. He cuts through the horde effortlessly, his mind focused on the broken power scaling. Minsu runs up, reporting that the Lykan just changed its trajectory. He shows the live feed. The massive wolf is heading straight for the nuclear power plant. The beast is swatting military vehicles aside like toys. The Japanese players desperately try to lure it into a trap. The monster fires a compressed beam of energy from its mouth. The beam obliterates the barricade, scattering the vanguard instantly. The surviving players watch in horror as the horde advances. If it breaches the reactor, the entire country goes up in smoke. They have less than an hour before total annihilation. Hwoyun opens his status window. He applies every single unspent bonus point directly into pure strength. Minsu mentions the top American player from the previous timeline had 1500 strength. Hwoyun hits almost 9000. The world has changed, and he must adapt. He launches himself forward, the concrete exploding beneath his boots. At the power plant, the Japanese vanguard is completely routed. The Lykan swings a massive spiked club, sending armored knights flying. flying. The beast opens its jaws, all preparing to finish them. Hwa-yoon descends from the sky like a meteor, crashing right in front of the beast. He tells Min-soo to stay back while he handles the trash. The kid salutes, backing away to secure the perimeter. The Japanese commander screams for his mages to launch a coordinated volley. Dozens of spells rain down from the surrounding rooftops. The commander orders a massive, synchronized strike. A colossal fireball engulfs the entire intersection. The smoke clears. The Lykan swings its blade through the flames, completely unharmed. Hwa-yoon steps out of the smoke, entirely unimpressed. His red eye glows. He triggers the Petrify skill. The Lykan freezes mid-swing, its muscles locking into solid stone. Hwa-yoon channels raw mana into his palm and unleashes a point-blank detonation. He stands over the vaporized remains, his expression cold. The crowd erupts into deafening cheers. They just witnessed a god save their city. He sifts through the ashes, retrieving a level 100 mana stone. In his past life, these stones were priceless energy sources. He ignores the broadsword drop. He still can't equip it. Nami runs up, her eyes shining with sheer admiration. She begs him to fly to the United States to handle their Lykan problem next. He refuses. The American players lured their beast into the desert and nuked it. Nami insists the Japanese Prime Minister wants to thank him personally. He activates the Eye of God, scanning the crowd of cheering players. Their levels are pathetic. Not a single threat among them. The media mobs him at the airport, begging for a soundbite. He answers a single question before pushing through the crowd. He hates the political circus, but manipulating the public image has its uses. He grabs Min-soo by the collar, dragging the kid away from the spotlight. Nami tries to stop him, but he vanishes using stealth right in front of her eyes. Back in safety, he checks his status. His strength is pushing 6,000. He has hoarded over 15,000 unused bonus points. Then he dumps them all into strength, breaking past 8,000. A system notification flashes. A special dungeon gate has opened. Nami calls him frantically. The Korean president urgently needs to speak with him. They arrive at the VIP reception room. The president of Korea greets him warmly. He thanks Hwa-yoon for saving their diplomatic relations with Japan. The president offers him a high-ranking government position. Hwa-yoon cuts straight to the chase. He needs the government to track down a specific gate. A gate radiating pure gold light just spawned somewhere in the country. He warns them that the monster inside is infinitely stronger than the Lykan. If someone finds it, the gate closes in exactly 30 seconds. They need eyes everywhere. He asks the president to mobilize every military branch and camera network immediately. He insists the search must remain completely classified to prevent looters. Inside the National Crisis Management Control Room, dozens of operators scan satellite feeds. Hwa-yoon watches the monitors, explaining the sheer destructive power of a special boss. Lim Gun-hong, the head of the department, questions the logic. Hwa-yoon narrows his eyes. He needs to be the first one inside. He explains that a level 200 special guardian drops items that break the game's reality. Lim argues that giving one man this much power is dangerous. He turns to the president, accusing Hwa-yoon of monopolizing national resources. Hwa-yoon glares at the bureaucrat. Monopolization is a natural right for the strong. Lim suggests deploying government-sanctioned players to secure the gate instead. Hwa-yoon shatters the concrete floor between them with a pulse of raw gravity magic. The sheer shockwave sends the politician stumbling backward. He looks directly at Lim Gun-hong. Power dictates the rules. He turns his red eyes toward the president, the threat hanging heavy in the air. The president sweats profusely. He understands exactly who holds the real power. He grants Hwa-yoon exclusive access to the special gate. Hwa-yoon adds one final condition: fire Lim Gun-hong immediately. He has zero tolerance for bureaucrats who prioritize control over survival. His gaze pierces through the political theater. A satellite operator shouts, "They found the Golden Gate." Lim Gun-hong is escorted out of the building carrying a cardboard box. Min-soo laughs in the passenger seat as they speed towards Sokcho. They arrive at the beach line. The massive yet a swirling golden portal dominates the shoreline. A system window notes that the gate was spawned entirely because of his butterfly effect. He tells Min-soo to stay behind. This is a solo run. He steps into the blinding light. A blaring red warning covers his vision. All stats restricted. All skills restricted. Item usage disabled. A tiny red goblin guardian stands in front of him, cackling wildly. Hwa-yoon curses. The Eye of God won't activate under the suppression field. The goblin laughs, explaining that this isn't a simple combat trial. It mocks him, fully aware of his reputation outside the gate. The goblin stomps the ground with surprising force. Hwa-yoon realizes raw force is useless here. The system offers a choice. Unlock exactly one attribute to clear the trial. He selects strength without a second thought. The goblin smiles. It's that choice just made the game exponentially harder. The little monster dodges a punch and grabs Hwa-yoon's arm, throwing him off balance. He finds himself standing at the bottom of a massive spiral staircase inside a stone tower. The objective updates. Claim the stat rune at the top of the tower. He rubs his forehead, already annoyed by the puzzle mechanics. A time limit flashes. 18 hours until automatic execution. He smirks. A death trap designed to strip his power away. He looks up at the towering ceiling, ready to tear the entire structure down with his bare hands. Hwa-yoon sprints up the endless spiral staircase. He pushes his legs to the absolute limit. Massive boulders crash down the stone path behind him. He looks over his shoulder, tracking the falling debris. The suppression field drains his energy with every upward step. He sits on the stone floor, his chest heaving. Climbing this tower, the intended way, is a suicide mission. The blue system panel mocks him with 16 hours remaining on the clock. He reads the objective again, carefully. The rules never said he had to walk to the top. He just has to touch the rune. He drops into a low stance, gathering his unrestricted strength. He launches himself upward like a bullet. He drives his fist right into the ancient ceiling. The tower groans under the impossible pressure. The structural integrity fails. Stone rains down. He lands back on his feet, exhausted but grinning. The upper floors collapse into the chasm. Through the dust, the glowing prize reveals itself. The massive red crystal drops straight into his hand. The system tags it, a rune worth 2,000 strength points. He swallows the stone without hesitation. The red goblin guardian watches from the sidelines in sheer panic. The creature shrieks, furious that the tower was destroyed. The tiny monster cannot comprehend what just happened. Hwa-Yoon pulls up his status window. His strength crosses 10,000. The goblin screams in terror. This was supposed to be an execution chamber. Hwa-Yoon steps forward, his eyes burning red. The creature begs for mercy, shaking on the ground. The system announces the dungeon clear and initiates the exit transport. Back in the real world, Min-Soo checks his phone. Then the kid reports that another player reached the 1,000 stat threshold. Hwa-Yoon stares at the screen, annoyed. He opens his own status window to check his reserves. He dumps 1,400 bonus points straight into mana and stamina. The system acknowledges his new attributes. He claims the King of Mana title and unlocks a magical restriction skill. King of Stamina grants blood flow, a skill to control internal pressure. He smirks, satisfied with his monopoly. Across the globe, the World Player Association convenes an emergency board meeting. The executives demand to know who stole the King of Mana achievement. The lead director confirms there is only one suspect. A young girl with long blonde hair sits at the table. Yahello, the witch. She smiles brightly. The executives panic over Hwa-Yoon's actions inside the final dungeon. Yahello calls him kind-hearted. The room falls dead silent. Yahello insists the anomaly is the only one who can handle the special gates. She pulls up the system logs. Hwa-Yoon is the trigger. The board questions giving one man absolute power over the spawns. She raises her hand, silencing the old men. She explains her own experience inside the US special gate. A red goblin guided her to the top of a tower. The executives listen in stunned disbelief. They realize Hwa-Yoon is clearing the gates at impossible speeds. The sheer stats he is gathering break all existing power scales. The board concludes they must beat him to the remaining gates. The director orders the Korean branch to mobilize immediately. Yahello volunteers to handle the situation personally. She refuses to let the association's foot soldiers bungle the job. The director warns her that she needs to surpass him in power first. Back in Seoul, Min-Soo explains the true nature of the World Player Association. Hwa-Yoon listens, processing the political landscape. Min-Soo details how the organization acts as a global military force for hire. They operate under the guise of protecting humanity. In reality, their objective is controlling the dungeon admission auctions. Governments pay them billions to clear high-risk gates. The WPA hoards the wealth and the legendary drops for their own elite members. Min-Soo pulls up a picture of the blonde girl on his phone. Yahello, the player who cleared the US special gate. Hwa-Yoon remembers her from his past life. She was the undisputed ruler of Mana. In the previous timeline, she owned the achievement he just stole. Min-Soo notes that she currently holds 2,000 mana points. She just announced to the world that it is possible to fight Hwa-Yoon. He ponders her strategy. Clearing a stat-restricted tower using only mana requires insane, precise control. He decides she is a variable that needs to be managed. The conversation cuts out. A towering beast dominates the newsfeed. Mutated gargoyles are tearing through the Bundong-gu Techno Valley. Hwa-Yoon speeds down the highway toward the crisis zone. Min-Soo rides shotgun, terrified of the impending clash. The gargoyles breathe fire, melting skyscrapers into slag. The Korean president begs for Hwa-Yoon's intervention over an earpiece. Hwa-Yoon confirms he is already en route. Min-Soo asks about the internet rumors, blaming Hwa-Yoon for the monster spawns. Hwa-Yoon's red eye sharpens in the rearview mirror. He knows the system is spawning these beasts to correct his timeline interference. Min-Soo clutches his phone, terrified of the public backlash. Hwa-Yoon admits the rumors hold a shred of truth. He sets his terms. In exchange for the rescue, as he demands priority access to all future special gates, the president agrees without hesitation. They arrive at the burning ruins of the city. Hwa-Yoon parks the car. The destruction stretches for miles. Min-Soo points toward a figure standing in the wreckage. Yahello waits for them in the middle of the destroyed street. She spots Hwa-Yoon and approaches him with a practiced bright smile. She acts like an old friend, calling him Appa, like they have known each other for years. Hwa-Yoon glares at her, sensing the hidden motive behind the sweet facade. He steps forward and grabs her wrist in an iron grip. She gasps, startled by the sudden physical contact. He triggers the Eye of Reversal, forcing his way into her recent memories. The holographic playback reveals her inside the US Special Dungeon. The memory shows the same Red Goblin Guardian guiding her through the traps. Hwa-Yoon fast-forwards the feed, looking for the catch. She didn't clear the tower with skill. She manipulated the guide with her high mana pool. He drops her hand, stepping back. Min-Soo yells at her, recognizing the witch from the forums. Yahello drops the cute act for a second, glaring at the sidekick. Sparks fly between the two as Hwa-Yoon stands in the middle, unimpressed. He asks her one more time why she came all the way to Korea. Yahello claims she needs him, she wants wants an alliance? He smirks, daring her to prove her worth. She pouts, frustrated by his cold response. A massive gargoyle lands behind her, shattering the pavement. The beast locks its eyes on the group and lunges forward. Hwa-yoon pushes Minsu out of the strike zone. The monster unleashes a breath of pure fire, engulfing the street. Hwa-yoon raises a single hand, his red eye glowing with raw energy. He triggers gravity control. 2 tons of invisible force crush the monster into the concrete. The beast roars in agony, its wings pinned to the ground. He increases the output to 4 tons. The pressure obliterates the beast in a flash, leaving nothing but dust and a crater. Yahello and Minsu stare at the destruction, stunned by the casual display of power. A second gargoyle drops from the sky, aiming its jaws directly at Hwa-yoon. He does not flinch. The beast's massive shadow covers him. He triggers the Petrify skill, locking the monster mid-air. He drives his blade straight into the beast's chest. He channels the blood flow skill, targeting the open wound. The monster's blood pressure spikes to catastrophic levels. The creature shatters into a shower of red mist and fragmented stone. The system chimes. His level jumps from 71 to 93 in a single kill. A third gargoyle charges, unleashing a torrential wave of hellfire. Yahello steps forward, casting a complex blue magic circle to protect him. She applies a buff directly to his system. Hwa-yoon feels his stamina surge, but his raw strength plummets by 200 points. He ignores the debuff, cloaking himself in his leveled up armor skill. He concentrates his mana, condensing the shield into a lethal offensive weapon. He catches the charging gargoyle by the throat, stopping its momentum dead. He crushes the beast windpipe, ending the fight in a single breath. He turns back to Yahello, his chest covered in monster blood. When she stammers, trying to play innocent about the botched buff. Hwa-yoon smiles. He knows exactly what she attempted to do. She planned to cripple his strength so the gargoyle would finish him off. He pulls up the national broadcast on his phone. The entire country watched her. Help. He calls her out on her lies. In her memories, he saw her true ambition. Yahello tries to play it off as a joke, but the tension in the air spikes. She glares at him, dropping the cute facade. She offers him a deal, work for her sponsors, and she will make him a king. A wide, sinister grin spreads across her face. She admits she wants the entire world under her feet. The system interrupts the standoff. A new level 3 special gate spawns right in front of them. The gate allows a maximum of 2 players. Minsu takes a step back, realizing he cannot enter. Hwa-yoon orders the kid to stay behind and steps into the portal. Yahello follows close behind. The red goblin guardian waits for them on the other side. The creature panics the moment it recognizes Hwa-yoon's face. The goblin explains the rules out of pure terror. They must defend a narrow ravine for 3 hours. If a single monster crosses the line, the players die. Hwa-yoon looks at the canyon. Waiting 3 hours is a waste of his time. A massive swarm of winged gargoyles darkens the sky above them. He unleashes his aura, combining gravity control and petrify at the exact same time. He sweeps his hand down, casting a concentrated wave of lethal mana. The entire swarm shatters at once, raining stone fragments into the ravine. The system announces Wave 2. Hwa-yoon turns to the trembling goblin with a dark smile. The guardian realizes the human is not trapped in here with the monsters. The monsters are trapped with him. Hwa-yoon demands to know why the system forced a defense objective instead of a simple kill mission. He realizes the game difficulty scales inversely to his power. The system is actively trying to execute him. He approaches the goblin, his red eyes burning with irritation. He crushes a spawning monster without even looking at it. He tells Yahello the truth. The creator of this game hates his existence. He grabs the red goblin by the horns, lifting it off the ground. He interrogates the creature, demanding answers about the entity controlling the gates. The goblin squeals. It calls the entity a god. Hwa-yoon points a finger toward the sky, mocking the invisible game master. He threatens to crush the goblin's skull if it doesn't reveal the god's location. The creature cries out, stating the god can only be met in the final dungeon. The gate clears. The system rewards him with 3,000 bonus points. Back outside, Hwa-yoon formulates a plan. He needs to hunt down Park Musung, the Sword Emperor. Musung holds a skill capable of bypassing legendary armor. Hwa-yoon wants it. He uses the Eye of Reversal to view the memories Yahello holds of Musung. The playback confirms the Sword Emperor's lethal piercing ability. He pulls up his system panel. Over 4,000 unspent points remain. He taps the interface, assigning every single point. His strength stat hits 21,100. Minsu clutches his head, nauseous from the suffocating aura bleeding off his boss. Hwa-yoon wraps his fist in blue flames to test the new output. He throws a punch at the empty air. The sheer kinetic force obliterates the side of an apartment building down the street. The system chimes. The armor skill reaches its absolute limit. Armor level 3 acquired. The final blow trait reflects damage back at the attacker at the cost of 70% of his health. He checks his phone, scrolling through the world news. He needs to draw Musung out of hiding. A direct provocation is the only option. He visits the massive bronze statue erected in Musung's honor. Standing right next to it is a statue of Hwa-yoon, flipping the bird to the sky. Yahello bursts into laughter, unable to handle the ridiculous monument. Hwa-yoon calls the president with a simple request. He wants his statue moved. He demands it replace Musung's entirely. Hurry before the government can act. He obliterates Musung's statue with a pulse of mana. The video of the destruction hits the internet instantly. The forums erupt into chaos. Players debating why the great hero attacked another legend's monument. Hwa-yoon reads the comments. Musung is hiding because he isn't strong enough enough yet. Deep inside a dungeon, the red goblin meets with a towering fallen angel, Kale. The massive demon forces a red stat rune into the goblin's mouth. Kaylee orders the creature to feed the corrupted trap to Hua-Yun. Back in the city, the trio rests on a picnic blanket in the park. A glowing level 51 gate spawns right next to them. Silver armor. Hua-Yun stands up, ready to claim the unique assassin class skill inside. They step through the portal. The massive fallen angel descends from the ash-filled sky. They see Kale charges in a heartbeat, his dark aura suffocating the zone. The system displays the boss stats. The numbers are astronomical. Yahello warns him. The monster's combined attributes exceed 20,000. Kyle grabs Hua-Yun by the shoulders, driving him backward with immense force. The fallen angel slams him into the bedrock, shaking the entire cavern. Hua-Yun triggers Petrify, trying to halt the assault. The boss breaks the paralysis in less than 3 seconds through sheer stat superiority. Kaylee unleashes a point-blank explosion of dark energy. Hua-Yun takes the full brunt of the hit, refusing to step back. He stands amidst the smoke, bleeding from the catastrophic damage. A cascade of system windows floods his vision. The conditions are met. He activates the final blow reflection trait, where he drives the counterstrike straight through Kale's defense, breaking the boss's posture. The fallen angel collapses, coughing up black blood. The boss corpse morphs into a skeleton wearing silver armor. Hua-Yun pins it down, retrieving the glowing red stat rune from its mouth. He shoves the crystal back in and obliterates the skull. He glares into the dark, realizing the system tried to feed him a poison pill hidden inside a reward. The true war against the game's creator has just begun. What happens next? Find out what's going on, and if you want part 4, please leave a subscribe to my channel, Manhwa Regress.